All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the November 1st UTXO Alliance Town Hall. We'll go through another UTX in the news update. Um, a really exciting update. I wish there were more people here to walk through it with us live. But we have a great UTXO handbook update and a setup to think about how we want to promote it over the next month. Aiming for a December 1st or our December UTXO Alliance Town Hall to really push it out. An open mic session, and if there is any interest in breakout rooms. So just to go around UTXO in the news, I'm going to let me just put this into the chat so that people can click the links and catch up to date with our UTXO Alliance. From Alethium, a weekly dev update. Cardano Summit happened. I'm curious to talk about Bitcoin operating system in the open space. John, you were at Cardano Summit. Maybe we can have a little update there. The Digibyte Alliance now has representation in the UTXO Alliance, so we have added some of their members to be able to join working group meetings. Check out Ergo's weekly update. Um, for Fractal, I'll point you towards the Telegram group. Might be interesting what you find there. Horizon Labs, note that their CTO will be at DevCon November 12th in Thailand. From Komodo is hiring. If you're interested in a marketing position, they're hiring for 2 positions. You can send your CV to marketing@komodoplatform.com. Nervos will be hosting the CKB conference in Thailand November 9th. You can click that link to attend. Quai Network, the Golden Age testnet launched last week, currently running at 525 gigahash. Topple is, let's just say it's in stealth mode as a Bitcoin layer 2. Looking forward to some interesting updates there. From Wolfram Blockchain Labs, our Echo Feeds service is in beta. This is a price feed infrastructure that is also open source. From University of Zurich, the ETH Zurich meetup will occur in January 2025 in Switzerland. And from Zengate, consistently putting out some of the best video series in Web3, combining Zengate, real world assets, Ergo, and Cardano. Really love to watch and see all the things that they're putting out. So that's UTXO in the news. What about our UTXO handbook? And this will bring up our UTXO flavors handbook. And I'm going to put this into chat. And really excited to share it because one, a lot of work has been put into this over the past 2 months, and we're nearing completion. We have representation from all of our UTXO Alliance members here in the handbook. What this means, and we're going to take 10 to 15 minutes for the people in the room to just read it. I think it's an important thing to do. We've made the time to do that here in this town hall. But this is a walkthrough of ingredients of what makes a UTXO-based blockchain, and then it goes through all the various models. And we do this using simplified ingredients in a visual language. And one of the other very interesting updates is that we have a GitHub page that links directly to the visual drawings for each of our Alliance members so that they can uh, asynchronously update what is a visual representation of their chain and increase it, make it more accurate, expand it, add anything else to it. So that is a GitHub handbook, and Ignacio will go through that shortly. Some of these visualizations really combine the simplicity of our base system, and then start to build in a instruction set on how to think, how to sequentially move through a larger layer one blockchain system. We begin with cryptographic primitives like hashes and signatures, simple explanations with simple visualizations. Then when you combine those up into a bigger set, they form a transaction, and we signify where those transactions actually exist, where the hashes and signatures appear. This will give people, from the non-technical perspective, maybe a better visual way of understanding how do our member blockchains work, who can talk about them, how we can spread the education, and how we can make this into a larger marketing campaign. Um, then looking at the greater UTXO set and how they're combined, nice visualizations to pull it together with a walkthrough. All of those build up into a bigger block. And here you can see, obviously, the simplified version. We can layer this visual on top of the more technical, detailed blowout piece. And again, all of these visualizations are open and available for you to use to design, to enhance or design different visuals of the blockchain. And once you tile all of the blocks together, you get the chain. So in old fashion, obviously we begin with Bitcoin's UTXO model, which established the space. You'll see the very simplified diagram, but then some of the more specific details, what's related to the consensus protocol, what type of script is used, and then the more detailed version with those same very simple characteristics pointed out so that people can really visually understand the flow and sequence. So that's Bitcoin, the vanilla flavor. What is all of the various parameters of a UTXO based blockchain, and what are the differences between all of our various chains? So represented here on the left are all of our various members, and then across we'll look at hashes, supported signatures, the scripting language for smart contracts, uh, the average size and average block of each chain, how do they handle the UTXO set. Obviously, feedback is requested here, what the protocol is, the consensus protocol is, and some data about the network propagation. So here's a table to help you get a general UTXO Alliance set of specs. And this is obviously open to be updated. We still have some blank spaces here that we need to confirm with some teams. And then you go into the various member chains, the extended UTXO model of Cardano. What's specific here? You can see the same visualization. So this is a repeat. You get to see the progressively complexifying or simplifying of various trade-offs and parameters. Ergo, the extended UTXO model. Same thing. You see this very simple diagram, but a difference here. Non-interactive proof of works, NEPA POWs. How is that different? What type of trade-off does that make for Ergo? The more detailed view, so on and so forth. Nervos's common knowledge base, CKB. Pi network and proof of entropy minima, and their different zone and region and prime chains. So we have the same visualizations, but now broken out in kind of a different dimensions. Topple, the Ouroboros Tacticos regularized proof of stake. This is extending Ouroboros Praus from Cardano. So you're even seeing iterations within the UTXO Alliance. And I think there's probably a larger space of continuing those evolutions. From Alethium, you get the stateful UTXO model and the AlphaRed virtual machine. And just being able to see this architecture really breaks out the state and logic. and is really beautiful. Digibyte, um, as we currently stands, we've not received a ton of feedback, but it is kind of a very um, we're always starting with Bitcoin's simplified model, and then we will add to it. So that's what we've done for um, Digibyte, Fractal, Komodo, and there will be Horizon in here. So we get down to the supplementary material. Think of this as the appendix at the very far back of a physical book. What might you want to see in here? Well, if we're talking about the UTXO model, we really need to reference it compared to the account model because some of those really great important trade-offs occur in the visualization of differences. And this is one thing that we are tackling immediately next, but this is also open because you have now the visualizations and access to the documents and the files to also help us build what does a account model look like from our perspective. Then some visualizations about protocol security. We can point out things like how the double spend attack occurs and when a network loses consensus. So this is version 2, 0.2. We want to take 10 minutes right now for everybody to read the document, go through it, add comments, and we think over the next month, if we can accumulate some of these comments into a template, I'll share that template shortly, that if you see something that is worth being added, we would ask that you fill out a template that kind of assigns work, and we can build that up into over the next month. Here are some tasks that some of our participating members have defined, and those will be things that we can hopefully assign to those who have some capacity, have some expertise, or to the UTXO content management team. So if everybody has access to the document, I'm going to pause sharing now. I will put on a timer
A
and
quick question on that with the template. You're going to be linking that from the document itself. So people, who are reading it going, oh, that's not quite right. They will just be able to link to the template and go from there.
yeah, the template it's just a Google Doc that will
Okay,
have
cool. But
um,
as long as that's linked from inside the document itself, that's quite good because it just means it's more discoverable. Secondly, I'm looking at things like network delay time and stuff. That kind of thing can change a little bit over time as chains evolve. How regularly are you looking to benchmark this stuff? And I've just been looking at lots of cross blockchain metrics and how you find them and how you compare them. But it would be interesting to, there's probably a role to make sure there's an enforced check-in on some of these numbers every now and again.
sure. That parameter, that's a great point. I don't think we've necessarily considered that, but ideally, by distributing the visualizations um, and all of the files, hopefully we can ask for the representatives to take responsibility for just acknowledging that an update occurred at the very least, and ideally they can make that update themselves. I think it actually is a very simple visual change potentially, or if it's just a change in the table of specs that, hey, it was this latency and it is now this, that we just make that update, or at least we suggest that change. I think that's a great point. So if you will join me, we're going to take 10 minutes. I linked access to the template in a comment in the file at the top of table of contents. I'm going to try and do a new age thing. John, this is for you. I'm going to play some lo-fi beats in the background while we take 10 minutes to read this. Okay, so in honor of DevCon being in Bangkok in the next month, we're going to listen to some Bangkok lo-fi beats, and I'm going to share that sound. I picked this let's see if you guys can hear this. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear it. Or a visual video. Okay, got it. All right. So we're gonna take 10 minutes to read. I'll set the timer now. Dive in, take any notes, and relax. You can go off video. And I'm gonna DJ fade this out. All right. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So, please, this is a good time to share feedback out loud. Rupert, I saw you put some notes in the comments. That's great. You want to share anything else or build on any of that?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, it's great work, first of all. So well done. So Steph, Ignacio, and everybody else who's contributed to this, because I know that's a lot of moving parts to put all of this together. So, yeah, that all looks good to me.
John, do you have any feedback you want to share?
Yeah. So I would say again, like great work. You can see like a lot of effort and care went into creating everything that's available, and then the formatting in terms of making it um, very useful and easy to read and consistent. Um, in terms of building off of it, I would say like a couple things. One, I don't know if it's something that you said in the description. Sorry, I realized I didn't turn my camera back on. Having like a glossary would be really useful. So during the course, you have like bolded words. So it seems like that was maybe an idea that you already had. Um, but I think that would be really useful at the end, in particular, because for people trying to go through and read things, it's often like very useful to have like a separate um, kind of document that they can just easily reference, some of these terms. Because when you're reading, like, I think as we all know, when you jump into blockchain at first, it's like there's nothing to hold on to. And you just hit um, word after word that you don't completely understand. And so having a glossary is really helpful because you're not going to keep redefining those words as you move through the document. So that's something that I would say would be super useful, and something that you could also potentially, as you expand on the document, could be like a useful way of like incorporating like multimedia as well, or connections to white papers and other stuff from the UTXO members who may have like specifically well like clear descriptions on some of the concepts. So I think that that's kind of useful. And then one thing that I would also say along those is just um, something that we've said before about like our education, but this is useful here, is that um, having video or audio is kind of useful for people too, because there comes a time where you are tired of reading. Like you just are like, okay, um, I've read the Bitcoin white paper for like the fourth time, and I need to like have it the audio version of it to like be able to understand portions better. Um, so that may be something that's again like particularly useful, and something that on the Wolfram side, Steph, you can ask probably Joffrey, um, because that's something where we could just line it up in a notebook and just use um, whatever connection to like OpenAI to like use one of their multimodal tools to just do and capture. Um, so that's something there that would prove potentially useful too. Um, then also like how you've sectioned these, to also think about like, hey, how would potentially like snippet videos, because again, like I'm a firm believer that even people who do read, there's a time at which you don't want to read anymore. You want to switch and like um, watch a video or listen to just be able to have it you know, go into your mind again and again and again to have a better understanding of things. Then the last thing was around logos. Like I love the use of the different UTXO Alliance chain members logos. And I would even say, is there a way to do that more as you update the document? Just because, again, like people love to see, like we all love to see our own logos and things, and I think that will help with like adoption and everything else. So that those are
Great advice. And for each person that is here working on this stuff with us, either in a working group or have contributed comments or anything else, we do need to add a section here of contributors. And anybody here that is part of this, this is our research, this is our handbook, this is for us to use, and this is open. So we are adding everybody who is contributing to this in small and big ways as definite contributors. So just by participating in this, this is something that I think you can, if you would like, you can gladly also have your name be put on it. And we are taking, you know, we take that seriously. So thank you for that feedback. Agreed with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so one more thing, although I don't know whether it's appropriate to include or not, is an explanation of the account model, just because maybe like not necessarily in the document, but referencing in another document, like, oh, you have it here already.
It's work in progress. Yeah, unfortunately,
okay.
Yeah, we didn't manage to finish it for this version, but yes, we considered including it.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% needs to be in there as a kind of a relative goalpost. What is, okay, what are we arguing that this the UTXO model is doing that some other model is not? 100% has to be there. Yeah,
I absolutely agree. That was another thing I was thinking as well, going, should it, shouldn't it? I didn't put it in the comments, but having a really simple table at the bottom just to remind people, this is what UTXO is better at, and this is versus the account model. So it's basically you're setting up the goalpost so that only the UTXO model scores, but that's fine. No, it's just like doing comparison between the two approaches. So figure out whatever is on that matrix that we win on across the board, and then, you know, add those different things.
Yeah. So in a way of doing this in the minimum viable way, placeholder images, things that start to represent key ideas, and then once we work from there, we well, Ignacio has been building the visual repertoire and inventory of things that we can use to build up bigger ingredients. So if this was like I don't think this is the best way to visualize the two side by side, but this at least makes the point. What is, you know, we're talking about something here. So let's in the MVP version get this, and in version 0.3 of the whole thing, we'll have our own kind of like visual guide to do it. And then, you know, for for example, I'm going to, much to my fiance's dismay, I am going to use this PDF to try to talk about what is blockchain in a more visual way. And so there's going to be key questions that come from her that I'll never have considered. And so I really just want to like start to use this to have interactions with some of my friends and family. And no, they're not going to make any technical developments on chain, but in the cause to help educate a wider population, this is 100% going to fill a void for which there is not a well articulated in a simple visual way to the mass population. And how much that helps, I don't know.
The wider questions as well about how you can take this media and translation to other media. So what I've just linked is notebook LM, which basically generates a podcast out of it as an example. But increasingly, you're going to see stylized versions of those kind of things. So interesting developments on that. But also, I'm wondering the way you can take a document and turn it into more of a clickable interactive learning experience, something like that, or have a chatbot beside it that kind of helps you answer your questions on this. So I think playing around with some of those ideas could be really interesting. I mean, John, you're, in fact, you guys are all probably far more in the AI world than I am. It just, I think it's worth spending a little bit of time exploring that from a content perspective, because also it gives you a faster ways of generating content, but also getting people to interact with it in the way that is most appropriate to them.
Yeah, totally. Ignacio, would this be a good time if you could just share the GitHub and just how people can think about that?
Yeah, sure. Do you want to share your screen, or maybe I can do that?
Yeah, might be
Okay.
easier. I can share it but let's see. If I can get there first, I'll do it.
Okay, you beat me.
Okay, so is this the home page here? Yes. Go ahead, Ignacio, if you want to just
Yeah,
talk
right.
through it.
So we can share this repository across Discord and internally if people wish to. So this is just a quick front page where we explain the goal of the handbook, why we're creating this, and then maybe the most important part is how to contribute. The shared document is linked there. Not everyone will have edit access, but if we see a familiar name or someone that's part of an alliance member or at least a renowned community member, we can grant them edit access. Otherwise, they can view and comment. And then if people or teams want to get their hands dirty and also edit the visuals with the same software that we've been using, everyone can use Excalibur. They have a free to use version that it's really powerful. You can do almost, yeah, basically, I think that you could reproduce what we've been doing so far. And if you head to the flowcharts directory, then there is a sectioned board for each chain. So for instance, if Ergo wants to edit their chain and their visuals, they can just download this, open it in ScalaDraw and start editing. So yeah, this is an invitation for people to check it out if they want to contribute, whether it's just adding feedback to the document or actually creating and editing visuals. They can do both. So this will be shared in Discord, and if anyone feels that they can share it internally with their own teams, then feel free to do so as well. Oh, we've added a contributor section as well at the bottom, and I think that we can copy paste that one on the document so that all names pop up.
Great. Excellent. Thank you, Ignacio. We'll add John's name to there as well. Let me just drop it in there, see if it lands well. And contributor. Wolfen blockchain labs. Cool. Okay, so one of the questions now is well, one, we're moving into the open mic part of this conversation, but I'd really like to get a sense of is when we have a version 3, which is going to be shortly, maybe that's with the update to the account visualization and widespread sharing of this ability to update the Excalibur files. How do we go into the end of the year, the holidays, and potentially package up a nice little gift to share that we all promote on someday in December. I think that's what we're trying to build towards, which is to discuss in town hall, the December town hall, which will be at the beginning of the month. What is the best way for us to coordinate a sharing at the same time? Whether this is the UTXO Alliance puts out a specific tweet, and then all members are informed that let's all retweet, make a comment on this, and try to really propel the handbook into new domains, new areas, and get some attention. So that's of that's one request that's been submitted to the UTXO Alliance content team, is what is the plan for actually promoting this? And this was talked about in the last working group meeting. Thoughts or comments from those in the room? Where do you think we should take this?
I mean, first of all, tweet sharing for sure makes sense, but it does require a bit of orchestrating, reminding people to do it, and making sure you're using the right channels to amplify it as well. So I think be very specific about your ask to members to go, we are planning to release it on this day. Can you figure out which channels would be the best to amplify the content? So again, it's not, oh, just a general, oh yeah, retweet this kind of thing, and if you've got any particular guidance about how you want it to be reshared, simple retweet, or, oh, it's great to see this coming out, we're all behind the UTXO Alliance. That becomes a slightly different positioning of it from a simple retweet, which doesn't get as much visibility, to somebody kind of commenting it on shaping it at the same time. That's purely on that front, but it might also be, and you've probably got internal databases or sort of Slack groups or whatever. Remember to post the content on there so they can get to know the UTXO model. So it's kind of, there's an internal advocacy piece there as well. And you might also want to encourage them, if they're thinking about internal channels and activating those, about what's the story that goes with it. It's like, oh yeah, we've been working with the UTXO Alliance, and we see this as a great thing because blah, blah, blah. Look, this is how you want to understand it. So again, it's a slightly different positioning, but it means it lands the message a little bit more and more effectively across. I mean, those are probably the two biggest ones I would go for, but it does require coordination, probably a doc or something, which lets you, it gives you your playbook you're giving to other people who are in the Alliance. And you probably need a tracking spreadsheet on your side just to remind you which of the individuals have gone, yeah, and replied to you and said, I'm actually going to do this, of all the chains that are on that list. And I guess that kind of, maybe this rolls a little bit into the Bitcoin OS discussion as well. It's like Bitcoin has got quite a big voice or share of voice in the community. How can we tap into that? And how can we bring them into the room to amplify this stuff? Because in a way, they should be the biggest advocates of the UTXO Alliance. They should be all over this. There could be an opportunity to bring them in closer. So I guess the question in my mind is how, and it could be that there's the Bitcoin OS Emergo thing could be interesting. It may be there's some other hook that we can get them in, but I think it'd be interesting to look at that from that lens as well as you're thinking about the promotion strategy.
Of all that, certainly, is it a double-edged sword with Bitcoin? It shouldn't be, but maybe it has some of those aspects. I think we should definitely go forward with that. And I took notes for a document for coordinating or tracking a tracking sheet that allows us to coordinate across Alliance members and inside their Slacks and Discords. Go ahead, John.
I mean, sometimes it just takes a while as well when you're in an organization to coordinate marketing functions. You've got different priorities, and it's slower than I'd like it to be. So, for example, those tweets, that I wrote a little bit ago, they're going through a review process now. It's that kind of thing that takes time, and it'll be pushed quite far down their priority list because You know, it's end of year, there's a million other things that are happening that people are screaming for, and it's somebody else's channel rather than their own. So all of those things have to be factored in as you're thinking about it. And it's not ideal, it's a bit annoying, but there you go.
Yep. Go ahead, John.
So I would say like one of the biggest UTXO advantages in a way is that there can be like some inheritance in a way from Bitcoin, right? And Satoshi Nakamoto to say like, oh, well, like we are the real inheritors, builders, etc. that of these innovations, right? So, but by the same token, like there are a lot of like Bitcoin maxis that might, you know, one not only disagree but then also argue about that. But I think in trying to appeal to that audience, it may be like as this progresses and is in kind of more of a final state with additional information. In particular, I would say videos, because I'm a firm believer that like people don't want to read, and like if you present them with a document, then that's where it stops. Like if it's, you know, like a news article and there's document up, it was great to read that summary, but you know, I'm done.
Let me invite you in, and you know what you think is a document is actually just a set of very easy to watch videos, and you'll get
Mhm.
the whole. You'll get a large percentage of the explanation, and for any of the things that really pique your curiosity, here's the nuance in written language.
Right, right. And what I would say there is from a um, there are different people to go to from that perspective, right? So I think in particular, um, Claudio is someone to go to ask, like, how does this get included in some curricula, right?
Claudio Tassone
And
of the
yeah,
University of Zurich.
yep. So you can ask him directly about like, hey, is this enough and is this useful? What additional things would you want to be able to include this in like the summer schools that they do? Then they're also like, once it kind of passes his kind of critique in a way, then you know he has a list of all these other blockchain centers, right? Particularly like I think they're more across Europe than in the US. But I think that's a good place to again like expand the feedback part. And then I think on um, the expanded Bitcoin part is that going to like, you know, Masari and the Block and Cointelegraph and um, CoinDesk and all the rest of these folks, like once it's at that level and once there's the video kind of thing, is that like they all have education that they try to do. They may not even be aware of all of the UTXO chains and the variants because we in UTX, like a lot of the UTXO people weren't. So the idea that they would be, I would be deeply surprised if they are. And this is something that would maybe provide them with additional stuff. But I would say it's like trying to figure out what the right package to provide them. So it's just easy and it's like a no brainer for them. And so I
Really
would kind
interesting.
of,
Yeah, I mean that kind of thing that's making me think like, how do you get a story? I mean, for them, they're trying to make clickbait really to get people to engage with the Sorry or coin, you know, all of these sorts of things. So it's the story they might want to tell is, does UTXO or account matter? Something like that. So they're probably, being who they are, not want to come firmly down on one side, but show actually here's a bit of why they're both pretty good, because they don't want to alienate their account base, but at the same time they can educate at the same time. So there's a kind of a fine play in all of that about how they can tell the story and how you could nudge them or excite them or put them on the hook to want to tell that story. as you go. Yeah, I don't have a nice clear answer, but John, I was just kind of riffing on your thoughts here as well, going like, yeah, really interesting, potentially really important way of amplifying it, because suddenly you're talking to hundreds of thousands of people, or getting it into newsletter blasts like that, rather than smaller ones. And so, I mean, I love the idea of looking at whatever the big newsletters are that are out there and thinking, how can we just inject it into what they're doing? Because that gives you a reach of 100,000 rather than, or, you know, rather than a few hundred or a few thousand. So it's kind of like, it just amps things up massively. So taking that step back and thinking about it in those ways could be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say like the thing there is that we know this is good content, and we know it's something that most people aren't going to have an understanding of, like doing a comparison across like the inheritance of UTXO in a way. It's just making sure it's polished by the time you're pitching it is what I would say. Like we know that, so it's kind of work backwards and take it through, you know, different people who can provide really good critiques, like again, like Claudio, and probably his grad students as well, from this, like, because they're writing at, not to criticize any of us, and certainly not to criticize you guys, but they're kind of writing at a different level in terms of understanding and clarity, and they probably are voracious readers of different types of material, and they're trying to actively teach, you know, during their summer school to a lot of different people.
Love it. Love the discussion. One thing I want to add here, and I'm restating this because I think this is an important part of the UTXO system, the UTXO Alliance, I mean, which is one of our Alliance members, Komodo. They are hiring, and I would like to push to the top that there are job opportunities in the UTXO Alliance. So let me just read this tweet from October 31st from Komodo. We are expanding our marketing team, and we are looking for talented Web3 enthusiasts. If you think the titles below suit you, Web3 marketing assistant, Web3 designer, UI experience is a huge plus. Send your resume to marketing@komodoplatform.com. Don't forget to include the job title in the subject. It's time to be part of something big. We support Alliance members, help grow Alliance ecosystems. If you have job opportunities, notable updates, or any other content to share, please drop a line in our Discord, UTXO Alliance Discord, and we will do our best to amplify it to as many people as possible. This concludes the November UTXO Alliance Town Hall. Thank you everyone for participating. Have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.
I got to jump off right away. Great